The Mercedes-Benz screeched to a halt in the circular driveway of the Banana Island mansion. Chidi Okafor's hands trembled on the steering wheel as he stared at the unfamiliar Toyota parked beside his wife's Range Rover. Something was wrong. Very wrong. He had cut his business trip to Dubai short, sensing something in Amara's voice during their last call. 20 years of marriage had given him an instinct about these things. Now, standing in his own foyer at 2 in the afternoon on a Wednesday, he heard laughter echoing from upstairs. His wife's laughter. And a man's voice. Chidi's heart hammered against his ribs as he climbed the marble staircase, each step feeling like a mile. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. Through the gap, he saw them. His wife, Amara, sitting on their bed in her silk robe, and there, beside her, was Emeka, their housekeeper of 3 years. But they weren't doing what Chidi's racing mind had imagined. They were looking at documents. Lots of them. Spread across the bed like a paper sea. And Emeka was crying. "Mrs. Amara," Emeka sobbed, "I don't know how to thank you. If you hadn't helped me, if you hadn't believed me, I would be in prison right now for something I didn't do." Chidi pushed the door open. Both of them jumped, their faces draining of color. "Chidi," Amara gasped, clutching the documents to her chest. You're home early." The room fell silent except for Emeka's ragged breathing. The young man looked terrified, his eyes darting between husband and wife like a trapped animal. Chidi's mind spun with 1,000 questions, but only one came out. "What is going on here?" Amara stood slowly, and that's when Chidi noticed something else. Something that made his blood run cold. On the nightstand beside their bed was an envelope with the letterhead of Adeniji and Partners, the most expensive law firm in Lagos. Next to it was a passport, not Emeka's, not Amara's, his own passport, and clipped to it was a photograph. A photograph that Chidi thought he had destroyed 15 years ago. A photograph that could unravel everything he had built, everything he had become. "Chidi," Amara said, her voice steady now, almost cold. "I think you need to sit down. Because what I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about this family, about Emeka, and most importantly, about yourself." Emeka wiped his tears and looked directly at Chidi for the first time. "Mr. Okafor," he said quietly, "I'm not who you think I am. And neither are you." The photograph in Amara's hand fluttered as she held it up. Even from across the room, Chidi could see it clearly now. 2 young boys, standing in front of a village compound in Enugu. Brothers. One of them was unmistakably a young Chidi Okafor. But who was the other boy? And why did he look exactly like Emeka? Before you find out what happens next, do me a favor. If you're enjoying this story so far, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this unfolds. Now, let me take you back to where this all began, 3 years ago, when a young man named Emeka first knocked on the gates of the Okafor mansion, looking for work, carrying secrets that would shake the foundation of one of Lagos's most powerful families. 3 years earlier, the Harmattan winds had been particularly harsh that December morning when Emeka Nwachukwu first arrived at the Okafor mansion. He was 24 years old, thin from months of struggling in Lagos, with nothing but a worn backpack and a letter of recommendation from a parish priest in Enugu. Amara had been the one to interview him. Chidi was away on business, as usual, building his telecommunications empire across West Africa. She remembered how nervous Emeka had been, how his hands shook as he handed her his documents. "I'm a hard worker, Ma," he had said, his Igbo accent thick and earnest. "I can cook, clean, garden, drive. Anything you need. I just need a chance." There was something about him that struck Amara. A sadness in his eyes that seemed too deep for someone so young. She hired him on the spot, against her better judgment. Chidi had been furious when he returned home. "We don't know this boy from anywhere," Chidi had argued, pacing their bedroom. "He could be a thief, a kidnapper. You know how things are in this Lagos." But Amara had insisted, and Emeka proved himself quickly. He was efficient, respectful, and invisible when he needed to be. He never asked questions about the expensive cars, the international trips, the endless stream of business associates who came through their doors. He simply did his work and disappeared into the boys' quarters each night. For 3 years, everything was perfect. Until 6 months ago. It started with small things. Amara would catch Emeka staring at Chidi during breakfast, his expression unreadable. Once, she found him in Chidi's study, holding a framed photograph of Chidi's parents, tears streaming down his face. When she asked what was wrong, he had simply apologized and left the room. Then came the accusation. Chidi's business partner, Alhaji Musa Bello, claimed that 50 million naira had gone missing from their joint account. The money had been transferred to an account that somehow traced back to Emeka's name. The police were called. Emeka was arrested. "I didn't do it," Emeka had screamed as they dragged him away. "Mrs. Amara, please, you have to believe me. I would never steal from this family. Never." Chidi had been strangely quiet during the whole ordeal. Too quiet. While Alhaji Musa demanded prosecution, while the police paraded Emeka in the news as another example of trusted house helps gone bad, Chidi simply watched with an expression that Amara couldn't read. That's when she decided to investigate herself. Amara Okafor hadn't built a successful interior design empire by being naive. She had connections, resources, and most importantly, instincts that rarely failed her. She hired a private investigator, a sharp woman named Ngozi, who had helped several of her friends with delicate matters. What Ngozi uncovered made Amara's blood run cold. The account in Emeka's name was fake. The real account belonged to a shell company in Mauritius, one that had ties to Alhaji Musa himself. The 50 million naira hadn't been stolen. It had been moved deliberately, and Emeka was being set up to take the fall.
But why?
Ngozi dug deeper. She traveled to Enugu, to the small village where Emeka said he was from. She spoke to elders, looked at old records, and discovered something that connected Emeka to the Okafor family in a way that defied coincidence. 30 years ago, in a village called Amagu, 2 brothers had been born to the Okafor family. The older brother, Chikwudi, was groomed to inherit the family's modest land. The younger brother, Chidi, was always in his shadow. When their parents died in a car accident, something terrible happened. Something the village still whispered about. Chikwudi disappeared. Some said he ran away to avoid responsibility. Others said something more sinister occurred. But one thing was certain. After Chikwudi vanished, young Chidi suddenly had money. Enough money to leave the village, go to Lagos, and start the business empire that would make him a billionaire. And Chikwudi? He resurfaced years later, married a woman from another village, and had a son before dying of a mysterious illness. That son's name was Emeka Nwachukwu. Amara had confronted Emeka in prison, armed with this information. The young man had broken down completely, telling her everything. How he had spent years searching for answers about his father's death. How he had discovered that his father's younger brother had somehow stolen everything. How he had changed his surname and taken a job as a housekeeper just to get close to the truth. "I never wanted to steal anything," Emeka had wept. "I just wanted to know what happened to my father. Why did he die poor while his brother became rich? What did Uncle Chidi do?" Now, as Chidi stood in their bedroom, staring at that old photograph, all those secrets were about to explode into the open. Amara took a deep breath and began to speak. "Chidi, I know what you did. I know about Chikwudi. I know about the land you sold that wasn't yours to sell. I know about the inheritance you stole. And I know that you've been paying Alhaji Musa for years to keep that secret buried." Chidi's face went from shock to rage to something else. Fear. When Emeka figured out who he was, Amara continued, Alhaji Musa saw an opportunity. Frame the boy, get him deported or imprisoned, and the secret stays safe. But what Musa didn't know was that I was watching. I've spent the last 3 months gathering every piece of evidence. Bank transfers, property documents, witness statements from your village. Everything. Emeka stood up now, his tears gone, replaced by a hardness that transformed his face. "You killed my father, didn't you?" he said quietly. "That mysterious illness. It was poison." The word hung in the air like a curse. If this story is gripping you so far, please drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. And don't forget to like this video because what happens next will leave you speechless. The truth about what really happened between these brothers is darker than anyone imagined. Chitty's legs gave out. He sank onto the edge of the bed, his face ashen. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Outside, Lagos traffic hummed in the distance, oblivious to the drama unfolding in the Banana Island mansion. "No," Chitty finally whispered. "No, I didn't. I never." "Then tell us what happened," Amara said, her voice sharp. "Tell us the truth, Chitty. After 20 years of marriage, you owe me that much." Chitty looked up at his wife, then at Emeka. The young man's resemblance to Chikwudi was haunting now that Chitty really looked at him. The same broad forehead, the same set of the jaw. It was like staring at a ghost. "Chikwudi was everything I wasn't," Chitty began, his voice cracking. "Stronger, smarter, more loved. Our father made it clear that everything would go to him. I would get nothing. I was the spare son, the one who didn't matter." He stood and walked to the window, unable to face them. "When our parents died in that accident, I was 19. Chikwudi was 22. The land, the money from selling our father's crops, everything went to him. He was supposed to share it, but he kept saying we needed to wait, to be smart about it." "So you stole it," Emeka said flatly. "I was desperate." Chitty spun around, his eyes wild. "I had gotten a girl pregnant. Ada from the next village. Her brothers were threatening to kill me if I didn't pay bride price. I needed money fast. So I forged Chikwidi's signature and sold a portion of the land to a developer from Lagos." Amara closed her eyes. "How much land?" "Half of it," Chitty admitted. "I got 3 million naira. It was 1995. That was a fortune then." "And Chikwudi found out," Emeka said. Chitty nodded slowly. He was furious. He said he was going to report me to the police, have me arrested for fraud. We fought. Badly. I left the village that night with the money. I came to Lagos and never looked back." "What about the girl?" Amara asked. "This Ada?" Chitty's silence was answer enough. "You abandoned her," Amara said, disgust coating her words. "You took the money and ran, leaving her pregnant and alone." "I was young and stupid," Chitty said desperately. "I was scared. I thought I could make something of myself in Lagos and then go back for her. But then I met you, Amara. I built the business. I became someone new, someone better. Someone built on lies." Amara shot back. Emeka's voice cut through the tension like a knife. "What happened to my father after you left?" Chitty turned to face him. "I don't know. I swear. I never went back to the village. I sent money to my aunt occasionally, but I avoided any news about Chikwudi. I was too ashamed. He died when I was 5 years old," Emeka said, his voice trembling with controlled rage. "My mother said he got sick suddenly. Fever, vomiting, weakness. The village doctor said it looked like malaria, but my mother never believed that. She said someone poisoned him because of a land dispute." "I didn't poison him," Chitty said firmly. "Whatever happened to your father, I had nothing to do with his death. The land, yes. I admit that. But murder? Never." "Then who did?" Emeka demanded. The question hung in the air. Amara moved to the nightstand and picked up another document. "That's what I've been trying to figure out. Because according to land records, after Chikwudi died, the remaining half of the Okafor land was sold. Not by you, Chitty. By someone else." Chitty's face went pale. "That's impossible. I was the only surviving family member." "That's what I thought too," Amara said. "Until I found this." She held up a power of attorney document, yellowed with age. This was filed in Enugu in 1998. It gives someone named Obiora Okafor the right to manage all remaining Okafor family assets. "Obiora?" Chitty's voice was barely a whisper. "But he's your cousin," Amara finished. "Your father's brother's son. And according to Ngozi's investigation, he's the one who sold the rest of the land after Chikwudi died. He made over 10 million naira from that sale." Emeka stood abruptly. "Where is this Obiora now?" Amara and Chitty exchanged a glance. Finally, Chitty spoke, his voice hollow. He's been here in Lagos for the past 15 years. He's a successful businessman. How successful? Emeka pressed. Very, Chidi admitted. He owns a chain of hotels across Nigeria. Let me guess, Emeka said bitterly. You helped him get started. You gave him capital from your stolen money, and he gave you legitimacy. A family connection to your new life in Lagos. The accuracy of the accusation was written all over Chidi's face. And Alhaji Musa? Amara asked her husband. How does he fit into all of this? Chidi slumped against the wall. Musa knows everything. He was the developer who bought the first half of the land from me. When I started my business years later, he recognized me. He's been blackmailing me ever since. 20% of every major deal. That's his cut for keeping quiet. 20%. Amara's voice rose. For 20 years? I had no choice, Chidi said miserably. If the truth came out, I would lose everything. The business, my reputation, maybe even you. You're about to lose all of that anyway, Amara said coldly. Because I'm not keeping this secret anymore. Wait, Emeka interrupted. If Obiora sold the land after my father died and he made millions from it, then he had the most to gain from my father's death. Not Uncle Chidi. The realization settled over all of them like a heavy blanket. Amara pulled out her phone and showed them a photograph. This is Obiora Okafor. I had Ngozi take this yesterday outside his hotel in Victoria Island. Emeka stared at the photo, and his face transformed. Recognition, then rage, then something else. Terror. That's him, he whispered. That's the man who came to see my mother a week before my father died. I remember because he gave me sweets and told me to call him Uncle Obi. My father argued with him that night. I heard them shouting about land and family and betrayal. The pieces were falling into place, but the picture they formed was darker than anyone had imagined. Chidi's phone rang, shattering the moment. He looked at the screen, and his face went even paler. It's Obiora, he said. He never calls me. Never. Answer it, Amara commanded. Put it on speaker. With shaking hands, Chidi accepted the call. Obiora's smooth voice filled the room. Chidi, my brother. I hope I'm not disturbing you. I heard you came back from Dubai early. Business problems? No, everything's fine, Chidi managed. Good, good. Listen, I need to talk to you about something urgent. About that housekeeper of yours. The one who was arrested. I heard his case is being reviewed. I thought we agreed he needed to stay locked up. Emeka's fists clenched. Amara put a warning hand on his arm. Why do you care so much about Emeka? Chidi asked carefully. There was a pause. When Obiora spoke again, his voice had changed. Lower. Dangerous. You know why, Chidi? Or have you forgotten what we did? What we both did to make sure the past stayed buried. The line went dead. In the silence that followed, the truth crystallized. Chidi hadn't acted alone. And the conspiracy was bigger and more deadly than any of them had realized. What would you do if you discovered your spouse had been living a lie for your entire marriage? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now because the next chapter reveals a twist that nobody saw coming. The phone slipped from Chidi's hand and clattered onto the marble floor. Nobody moved to pick it up. The three of them stood frozen, the weight of Obiora's words pressing down on them like a physical force. What did he mean by what we both did? Amara's voice was ice. Chidi, what else haven't you told us? Chidi backed away from her, shaking his head. I need to think. I need time to. You've had 20 years to think. Amara's composure finally cracked. 20 years of lies. Our children, Chidi. Adiz and Ikenna. They deserve to know what kind of man their father really is. Leave my children out of this, Chidi said desperately. They're my children too, Amara shot back. And I won't let them grow up celebrating a legacy built on theft and possibly murder. Emeka had been quiet, but now he moved toward Chidi with purpose. My mother died last year. Did you know that? Cancer. She spent her last months in a public hospital in Enugu because we couldn't afford proper treatment. Meanwhile, you were here in Banana Island, living like a king on money that should have been ours. I didn't know, Chitty whispered. I swear I didn't know. You didn't want to know, Emeka corrected. Just like you didn't want to know what happened to my father. But now you're going to tell me everything. What did you and Obiora do? Before Chitty could answer, Amara's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her expression changed. It's Ngozi, my investigator. She answered immediately. Talk to me. The room fell silent as Amara listened. Her face shifted from concern to shock to something close to fear. Are you certain? You have proof? Okay. Don't go anywhere near him. Stay where you are and send me everything you have. She ended the call and looked at both men. Ngozi has been digging into Obiora's background.
She found something.
Something that changes everything. What? Emeka demanded. Obiora isn't just a hotel owner. He's connected to some very dangerous people. Politicians, oil barons, people who make problems disappear. And according to Ngozi's sources, he's been cleaning up loose ends recently. 3 people who worked for him over the years have died in the past 6 months, all made to look like accidents. Chitty's knees buckled. He sat heavily on the bed. Oh God. Oh God. What have I done? What did you do? Amara pressed. Tell us now, Chitty. Because if Obiora is cleaning up loose ends, we might all be in danger. The billionaire looked up at his wife with tears streaming down his face. After I left the village, I came to Lagos with 3 million naira. I was young, naive. I didn't know how to invest it. I was staying in a cheap room in Ajagunal when Obiora found me. He found you? Emeka asked. Or you contacted him? He found me, Chitty insisted. He said he'd heard about the land sale, about my fight with Chikwudi. He said family should stick together. He offered to help me invest the money properly, to make something of myself. And you trusted him, Amara said. He was family, Chitty said weakly. He introduced me to Alhaji Musa, helped me get my first big contract. Within 2 years, I had turned that 3 million into 30 million. I thought I was a genius. I thought I had escaped my past. But then Chikwudi died, Emeka said. Chitty nodded slowly. When I heard the news, I knew something was wrong. Chikwudi was strong, healthy. The story about malaria didn't make sense. I confronted Obiora, asked him if he knew anything. What did he say? Amara asked. He laughed, Chitty whispered. He actually laughed and said, some problems solve themselves, cousin. Now the land is truly ours. No one to contest it. We can move forward without looking back. And you did nothing. Emeka's voice was raw with pain. You suspected your cousin murdered my father, and you did nothing. I had no proof. Chitty protested. And by then, I was in too deep. Obiora had helped me build my business. He knew all my secrets. If I accused him, he could destroy me. So I convinced myself I was wrong. That maybe Chikwudi really had died of natural causes. But you knew better, Amara said quietly. Chitty buried his face in his hands. Yes. God help me, yes. Emeka turned away, his shoulders shaking. When he spoke, his voice was thick with unshed tears. I came to Lagos 3 years ago with one mission. To find out what happened to my father and make whoever was responsible pay. I took this job to get close to you, to search for evidence. I went through your files, your computers, your bank records. Everything. That's how you discovered the connection to Obiora, Amara said. Yes. And when I confronted him, when I told him I knew he had killed my father, he smiled at me. Just smiled and said, prove it. Then a week later, 50 million naira disappeared, and suddenly, I was the thief. Chitty looked up sharply. You confronted Obiora? When? 2 months ago. I went to his hotel in Victoria Island. I told him everything I knew. You fool, Chitty breathed. Don't you understand? That's why he framed you. That's why he wanted you in prison or deported. You became a loose end. And now that I'm out, Emeka said slowly, now that Mrs. Amara has been investigating, we're all loose ends, Amara finished. She looked at her husband with something between pity and contempt. Your cowardice has put this entire family in danger. As if summoned by her words, they heard a sound from downstairs. The front door opening. Footsteps on the marble floor. Multiple footsteps. "Hello?" A familiar voice called out. "Chitty? Amara? I hope you don't mind, I used the spare key. We need to talk." Face to face. Obiora. Chitty stood on shaking legs. "He can't know you're here," he hissed at Emeka. "If he sees you—" "Too late for hiding," Amara said. She moved to the bedroom door and locked it. "We need to call the police." "The police?" Chitty looked at her like she was insane. "Obiora has half the police force in his pocket. Who do you think made your investigations so difficult? Who do you think has been blocking every attempt to clear Emeka's name officially?" The footsteps were climbing the stairs now. Slow, deliberate. Not alone. There were at least 2 other people with Obiora. "Chitty." Obiora's voice was closer now, just outside the bedroom door. "I know you're in there. And I know you're not alone. I have cameras, cousin. In your compound, on your street. I've known about your wife's little investigation for weeks. Did you really think I would notice?" He tried the door handle. Finding it locked, he chuckled. "Come now, this is childish. We're family. We can work this out like civilized people. All I want is to make sure everyone understands the importance of keeping the past where it belongs. Buried." Amara pulled out her phone, but Obiora's next words stopped her cold. "I wouldn't call anyone if I were you, Amara. You see, I have people watching your children right now. Adiz at the University of Lagos, Ikenna at his football practice. Beautiful children. It would be such a tragedy if anything happened to them." The phone slipped from Amara's fingers. Emeka caught it before it hit the floor. Mother and son locked eyes in a moment of pure, primal fear. "That's better," Obiora said from the other side of the door. "Now, let's all be reasonable. Open the door, and let's talk about how we can resolve this situation in a way that benefits everyone. Especially your children." Chitty looked at Amara, then at Emeka. In that moment, he had to make a choice. Continue protecting himself and his lies, or finally stand up for what was right, no matter the cost. The doorknob rattled again, more forcefully this time. Then a loud bang as someone threw their weight against it. The expensive wood began to crack. They had seconds to decide their next move, and the wrong choice could cost them everything. Chitty moved before anyone could stop him. He strode to the door and unlocked it, throwing it open with such force that it banged against the wall. Obiora stood there with 2 large men in black suits flanking him, his hand still raised to knock again. "Hello, cousin," Chitty said, his voice surprisingly steady. "You're right. We should talk. But first, call off whoever you have watching my children."
Now.
Obiora smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He was older than Chitty by 5 years, with silver threading through his hair and the kind of expensive suit that whispered rather than shouted wealth. "Always so dramatic, Chitty. I merely mentioned that I know where they are. I would never hurt my own family. Like you never hurt Chikwudi?" The words came from Emeka, who stepped into Obiora's line of sight. The smile vanished from Obiora's face. For a moment, something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "So, this is Chikwidi's boy. I heard you were out of custody. Unfortunate. I want to hear you say it," Emeka said, walking toward him. "I want to hear you admit what you did to my father." One of Obiora's men moved forward, but Obiora held up a hand. "It's all right, Danjuma.
Let the boy speak.
He's earned that much." He walked past Emeka into the bedroom, looking around with an appraising eye. "Beautiful room, Chitty. You've done well for yourself. Thanks in no small part to me, of course." "Answer his question," Amara said. "What did you do to Chikwudi?" Obiora settled into an armchair by the window, crossing his legs casually. "Your father was a stubborn man, Emeka. When Chitty ran away with the money, Chikwudi came to me. Said he was going to report Chitty to the police, recover the land, make sure justice was served. Very noble." "So you killed him," Emeka said flatly. "I offered him a better solution," Obiora corrected. "I told him that Chitty was young and foolish, that he would waste the money and come crawling back. I suggested that instead of involving police and creating a scandal, we should handle it within the family. I would buy the remaining land from him at a fair price. He would have money to take care of his wife and child. Everyone wins." But he refused, Amara said. Obiora's expression hardened. He called me a thief, said I was as corrupt as Chitty, threatened to report me to the elders, to expose certain business dealings I had going on at the time. Your father had a very inconvenient sense of honor, Emeka. So you poisoned him. Emeka's voice was shaking now. You put something in his food or drink, made it look like malaria, and then you stole everything. I prefer to think of it as solving a problem, Obiora said calmly. Chikwudi was going to destroy this family over money. I prevented that. And look at what we built with that prevention. Chitty became a billionaire. I created jobs, hotels, opportunities. We lifted the Okafor name from a poor village to the heights of Lagos society. Your father's sacrifice, tragic as it was, served a greater purpose. The casual way he spoke about murder made Amara's stomach turn. You're insane. You're actually insane. I'm practical, Obiora corrected. Something your husband understood, even if he never had the courage to admit it out loud. He looked at Chitty. You knew, didn't you? Deep down, you always knew what I had done. But you never asked because you didn't want the answer. That made you complicit, cousin. Just as guilty as me. Chitty's face crumpled. I didn't want to believe it. I told myself it was impossible, that you couldn't have. But you knew, Obiora interrupted. And you benefited. Every success you've had, every tower with your name on it, every award and accolade, all of it built on your brother's grave. So don't stand there acting like you're better than me. We're the same. No, Chitty said quietly. We're not. He pulled out his phone. On the screen was a recording app, and it had been running for the past 5 minutes. I'm not the man I was 20 years ago. I'm not even the man I was an hour ago. But I can choose right now, in this moment, to stop being a coward. Obiora's casual demeanor vanished. He stood slowly, his men tensing. Chitty, put the phone down. This recording is already uploading to a secure cloud, Chitty said. Amara showed me how to set it up while you were coming upstairs. Even if you take this phone, even if you take all of us, the confession is out there. You're bluffing, Obiora said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. Amara held up her own phone. I've been recording too. And I sent a copy to my lawyer with instructions to release it to every news outlet in Nigeria if I don't check in within the hour. Your threat to my children was the biggest mistake you could have made, Obiora. You turned this from a family matter into war. For the first time, Obiora looked rattled. His eyes darted between the phones, calculating. You don't understand what you're doing. I have powerful friends. People who can make you disappear. Then they'll have to make half of Lagos disappear, Emeka said. He held up his phone, showing a live video stream. I'm broadcasting this to my social media right now. 3,000 people are watching. And that number is growing. It was true. The view count on his screen was climbing rapidly. Comments were flooding in. People were sharing the stream. Within minutes, it would be viral. Obiora's face went through a series of emotions, shock, rage, and finally, cold calculation. You think you've won? You think exposing me will give you justice? I'll tie this up in courts for decades. My lawyers will destroy you. And your children, Chitty, Amara, they'll grow up knowing their father was a thief and their mother married him anyway. Maybe, Amara said. But they'll also know we finally told the truth. That we chose what was right over what was easy. Can you say the same? Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Obiora's expression darkened. You called the police? I called someone better, Amara said. I called Ngozi, and she called a journalist friend who's been investigating police corruption. That's not the Lagos police coming, Obiora. That's the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. And they're very interested in your money laundering operations. Turns out, when you start digging into one crime, you find so many others. The color drained from Obiora's face. The EFCC was not a force he could easily buy off. He looked at his 2 men. We're leaving. Now. But Danjuma and the other man didn't move. They were staring at their own phones at the live stream that was now being watched by tens of thousands. Their faces showed what they were thinking. Staying loyal to Obiora was no longer worth the risk. I said we're leaving. Obiora shouted. No, Danjuma said quietly. We're not. We're security, sir. Not criminals. We never signed up for murder. The sirens were at the gate now. Through the window, they could see vehicles pulling into the compound. Official vehicles with official markings. Obiara looked around the room at the faces watching him, his cousin who had finally found courage, the wife who had chosen justice over comfort, the nephew whose father he had murdered, and the two men who had just abandoned him. He was trapped, and he knew it. "This isn't over," he said, his voice low and venomous. "You have no idea what you've started." "Yes, we do," Chitty said. "We're starting to tell the truth." Finally. The bedroom door burst open and officers in EFCC vests flooded in. "Obiora Okafor, you're under arrest for money laundering, fraud, and suspicion of murder. You have the right to remain silent." As they handcuffed him, Obiora looked one last time at Emeka. "Your father died for nothing, boy. Remember that. All this pain, all this suffering, and what did it accomplish? He's still dead." Emeka stepped forward, and for a moment, everyone thought he might strike the man. Instead, he spoke quietly, with a dignity that belied his years. "My father died because he chose honor over greed. He died because he refused to be like you. And now everyone will know it. His name will be cleared. That's not nothing." As the EFCC led Obiora away, the room fell silent except for the sound of Amara's soft crying. Chitty stood frozen, watching his cousin disappear down the stairs, taking with him 20 years of secrets and lies. Emeka turned to face Chitty. Uncle and nephew stood there, separated by blood and betrayal, connected by tragedy and now, perhaps, by the possibility of redemption. "What happens now?"
Chitty asked.
Before Emeka could answer, Amara's phone rang. She answered it, listened, and her face went pale. "We need to get to the hospital."
"Now." "What?"
"Why?"
Chitty asked.
"That was Adi's friend. Our daughter collapsed at school. They're saying it might be poison." The room spun. After everything, after exposing Obiora, after thinking they had won, Obiora's reach had been longer than they thought. He had anticipated this outcome and made sure to strike where it would hurt most. As they raced toward the door, one question hung in the air, unspoken but terrifying. Had they acted too late to save everyone they loved? Have you ever had to choose between protecting family and doing what's right? What would you have done in Chitty's position? Drop your thoughts below, and make sure you share this video with someone who loves a good story. Don't miss the next chapter where we find out if Adi survives and what other secrets are still waiting to be uncovered. The drive to Lagos University Teaching Hospital was a blur of horns, traffic, and panic. Chitty drove like a madman, weaving between cars while Amara called their daughter's friends, the school, anyone who might have more information. Emeka sat in the back seat, his hands clenched into fists, guilt written across his face. "This is my fault," he kept saying. "I pushed too hard. I should have left it alone." "Stop," Amara said sharply. "This is Obiora's fault. Only his." They screeched into the hospital parking lot and ran through the emergency entrance. The waiting area was crowded with the usual chaos of a Lagos hospital: crying children, worried families, overwhelmed staff. Amara spotted Adi's best friend, Kemi, pacing near the reception desk. "Mrs. Okafor." Kemi ran to them, tears streaming down her face. They took her into emergency. She just collapsed during her economics lecture. One moment she was fine, taking notes, and then she started convulsing. "Where's my son?" Chitty demanded. "Where's Ikenna?" "He's here, Dad." The voice came from behind them. Ikenna, their 16-year-old son, sat slumped in a plastic chair, his football kit still on, mud on his knees. His face was red from crying. "Coach brought me as soon as he heard. They won't let me see her." Amara rushed to the reception desk, demanding to speak to a doctor. After several tense minutes of arguing with nurses and administrators, a young doctor in rumpled scrubs approached them. "Mr. and Mrs. Okafor, I'm Dr. Adelik. Your daughter is stable for now, but I won't lie to you. The situation is serious." "What happened to her?" Chitty's voice cracked. "We're running tests, but preliminary results suggest She ingested something toxic. We've pumped her stomach and started treatment, but we won't know the full extent until we identify the exact substance. Can we see her? Amara asked.
Soon.
She's sedated right now. But there's something else. Dr. Adelik glanced around the crowded waiting room and lowered his voice. When your daughter was brought in, a man was here asking about her. He said he was a family friend. He wanted to know what room she was in, what her condition was. My nurse told him we couldn't release that information, and he became aggressive. What did he look like? Emeka asked sharply. Tall, well-dressed, probably in his 50s. He had 2 other men with him. When security approached, they left quickly. Obiora, Chitty breathed. But he's supposed to be in EFCC custody. Emeka pulled out his phone and called Ngozi. The conversation was brief and troubling. When he hung up, his expression was grim. Obiora was released 2 hours ago. His lawyer showed up with a federal judge. They're claiming the arrest was unlawful, that the EFCC had no warrant. He's out on bail. How is that possible? Amara asked. The evidence. Doesn't matter if the arrest wasn't done properly, Emeka said bitterly. His lawyers are already filing motions to suppress the recordings, claiming they were obtained without consent. Welcome to how justice works when you have money and connections. Chitty slammed his fist against the wall. So he's out there, free, while my daughter fights for her life? I'm calling in favors, Emeka said, dialing again. I know people too. Not rich people, but people who owe me. Street people. Information people. If Obiora is still in Lagos, we'll find him. Mr. Okafor, Dr. Adelik interrupted. There's more. We found something in your daughter's blood work that doesn't make sense. She has traces of a compound that's not commonly available. It's used in certain industrial applications, but it would be very difficult for a civilian to obtain. Unless that civilian has connections to chemical companies, Amara said slowly. Obiora owns a hotel chain. Hotels use industrial cleaning supplies. He would have access. The doctor nodded grimly. I've contacted the police.
They'll want to speak with you about this.
If someone deliberately poisoned your daughter, this is attempted murder. Just then, another doctor rushed through the emergency doors, calling out urgently. Dr. Adelik, we have another case. 16-year-old male, collapsed at a football field in Ikoyi. Same symptoms. Convulsions, vomiting, toxic ingestion. The world stopped spinning. Amara grabbed Ikenna, checking him frantically. Are you okay? Do you feel anything? Did you eat or drink anything unusual? Mom, I'm fine, Ikenna said, trying to pull away from her inspection. I haven't eaten since lunch, and that was from home. The patient's name is David Okonkwo, the doctor continued. He was at football practice with. That's my teammate, Ikenna said, his face going white. David. We were practicing together an hour ago. He was fine. Chitty and Amara looked at each other with dawning horror. He wasn't the target, Chitty said. Obiora's men got the wrong boy. They were trying to poison Ikenna. As if to confirm their fears, Emeka's phone rang. An unknown number. He answered cautiously. Yes. A distorted voice spoke through obvious voice-changing software. The girl was a warning. The boy was supposed to be a message. You have 24 hours to recant everything. Hold a press conference. Say it was all a misunderstanding, that Obiora is innocent, that Emeka made up the accusations because he was bitter. Do this, and everyone stays healthy. Who is this? Emeka demanded. 24 hours. Or next time, we won't miss. The line went dead. Emeka played the recording for everyone. Amara's face hardened into something fierce and protective. We're not recanting anything. Amara, they almost killed our daughter, Chitty said desperately. They tried to kill our son. Maybe we should. Should what? Let a murderer walk free? Let him keep threatening people? Amara's voice rose.
No.
We protect our children by putting him away forever, not by letting him win. She's right, Ikenna said quietly. Everyone turned to look at the teenager. If we back down now, he'll always have power over us. We'll never be free. I'd rather fight. You're 16, Chitty said. You don't understand. I understand that my sister is in there fighting for her life because some evil man thinks he's above the law. I understand that you and Uncle Emeka are finally trying to do the right thing. Don't stop now, Dad. Please. The pleading in his son's voice broke something in Chitty. All his life, he had chosen the easy path, the safe path, the path that protected him. And look where it had led, his daughter poisoned, his son targeted, his family in danger. Okay, he said finally. We fight, but we do it smart. We protect the kids first. Dr. Adelik, who had been listening to all of this with growing alarm, spoke up. I can have both your children moved to a private wing. We'll post security. No one gets in without authorization. That won't be enough, Emeka said. Obiora has people everywhere. But I know someone who can help. Someone he won't expect. He made another call. This time, the conversation was in Igbo, rapid and urgent. When he finished, he looked at the group. My mother had a brother. He moved to Lagos 15 years ago and joined the police force. He's a commissioner now. Commissioner Nnamdi Nwachukwu. I've never contacted him because I didn't want to involve him in my revenge mission. But this isn't about revenge anymore. This is about survival. A police commissioner? Chitty's eyes widened. Your uncle is Commissioner Nnamdi? The one who's been cracking down on corruption? Emeka nodded. He doesn't know who I am. My mother broke off contact with her family when she married my father. They disapproved of the match. But blood is blood. If I tell him what's happening, he'll help. Within the hour, Commissioner Nnamdi Nwachukwu arrived at the hospital with a team of officers. He was a broad-shouldered man in his 60s with iron-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. When he saw Emeka, he stopped short. You look just like your father, he said quietly. Your mother sent me a photo once, before we lost touch. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you both. You're here now, Emeka said. That's what matters. The commissioner took charge immediately. He posted armed officers at the hospital entrances and outside both Adi's room and the secure ward where David Okonkwo was being treated. He listened to the recordings, examined the evidence, and made several phone calls that seemed to carry weight. Obiora Okafor made a mistake, he finally said. He got arrogant. He thought because he bought off some people, he could buy off everyone. But attempted murder of children? That crosses a line that even his corrupt friends won't protect. I have judges, prosecutors, even politicians who will turn on him now. No one wants to be associated with poisoning university students. Can you arrest him again? Amara asked. I'm working on it. But he's gone underground. His phone is off, his hotels claim they don't know where he is, and his usual haunts are empty. He knows we're coming. Then we draw him out, Chitty said. Everyone looked at him. He wants us to recant?
Fine.
We schedule a press conference. We say we're going to make a statement about the allegations. He'll come out of hiding to watch us surrender. And we'll be waiting, Commissioner Nnamdi finished, a grim smile on his face. It was risky, dangerous. But it was also the only way to end this before someone else got hurt. As they finalized the plan, a nurse came out of Adi's room. She's awake. She's asking for her parents. Amara and Chitty rushed in, Ikenna close behind. Emeka hung back, but Adi's weak voice called out. Is Emeka here? I want to thank him. Thank me? Emeka stepped into the room, confused. For what? Adi's face was pale and drawn, but her eyes were clear. That bottle of water someone left on my desk at school. The one with the note saying it was from Dad. I was about to drink it when you called my phone. Remember? You wanted to know if I had seen any suspicious people around. While we were talking, my friend Kemi accidentally knocked the bottle over. Most of it spilled. I only drank a little bit. The room went silent. If Emeka hadn't called when he did, if Adiz had drunk the whole bottle, she might not have survived. You saved my life, Adiz whispered. Emeka's eyes filled with tears. I almost got you killed in the first place. No, Chitty said firmly, putting a hand on Emeka's shoulder. Obiora did this.
Not you. Never you.
For the first time since they had met, uncle and nephew embraced. 20 years of stolen inheritance, of murder and lies and betrayal, All of it was present in that moment. But so was something new. The possibility of healing. Of family rebuilt from ashes. Outside the hospital room, Commissioner Namdi was already coordinating with his team. The press conference was scheduled for tomorrow morning at the Civic Center. Every news outlet in Nigeria would be there. And somewhere in Lagos, Obiora Okafor was planning his next move, unaware that this time, the trap was being set for him. The morning sun cast long shadows across the Lagos Civic Center as news vans lined up outside. Reporters from every major outlet in Nigeria had gathered, their cameras ready, their questions prepared. The story had gone viral overnight. Billionaire businessman Chidi Okafor was about to make a statement regarding shocking allegations of murder, theft, and family betrayal. Inside a small room backstage, Chidi adjusted his tie for the 5th time. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. Amara stood beside him, dressed in a simple but elegant wrapper and blouse, her face calm despite the storm they were about to walk into. "You don't have to do this," she said quietly. "We could still leave Lagos, start over somewhere else, and look over our shoulders for the rest of our lives."
Chidi shook his head. No.
Our children deserve better than that. They deserve the truth, even if it destroys me. Emeka entered the room, followed by Commissioner Namdi. "He's here," Emeka said. "Obiora just pulled up in a convoy. 3 cars, at least 6 men with him. He's sitting in the back, watching the entrance." "Are your people ready?" Chidi asked the commissioner. "Positioned at every exit. Plainclothes officers in the crowd. The moment you give the signal, we move." Commissioner Namdi checked his watch. "But remember, we need him to incriminate himself further. The recordings are good, but his lawyers are already working to suppress them. We need something undeniable." "He'll give it to us," Amara said with certainty. Obiora's greatest weakness is his ego. He can't resist gloating when he thinks he's won. A production assistant knocked on the door. "Mr. Okafor, you're on in 2 minutes." Chidi took a deep breath. 20 years of lies were about to end. 20 years of running from the truth. Whatever happened after today, at least he would finally be free. The family walked together to the stage entrance. Ikenna had insisted on coming, despite his parents' protests. Adiz was still in the hospital, but had made them promise to live-stream the conference to her room. As they stepped onto the stage, camera flashes exploded like fireworks. The murmur of the crowd rose to a roar. Chidi approached the podium, his family standing behind him in a show of solidarity. He could see Obiora in the crowd, sitting in the 3rd row, his expression smug and confident. Chidi cleared his throat. The room fell silent. "My name is Chidi Okafor," he began, his voice carrying through the microphone. "Many of you know me as a successful businessman, a philanthropist, a pillar of the Lagos community. Today, I'm here to tell you that everything you think you know about me is built on a lie." Gasps rippled through the audience. Obiora's smile widened. He thought this was the recantation, the surrender. 25 years ago, I stole from my family. I forged my brother's signature and sold land that wasn't mine to sell. I took 3 million naira and ran to Lagos, abandoning a pregnant girlfriend and leaving my brother Chukwudi to deal with the consequences. The reporters were scribbling furiously. Cameras zoomed in on Chidi's face, capturing every emotion. "My brother Chukwudi was a good man. An honorable man. He wanted to report me to the police, to make sure I faced justice for what I had done. And for that, he was murdered." The crowd erupted. Obiora's smile vanished. He started to stand, but his men held him back. Chukwudi was poisoned by someone who saw him as an obstacle. Someone who wanted the remaining Okafor land for himself. Someone who has spent the last 25 years building an empire on blood money while threatening anyone who got too close to the truth. Chidi pointed directly at Obiora. "That man is my cousin, Obiora Okafor." The crowd turned as one to stare at Obiora. Reporters surged toward him, but his security formed a wall. "This is slander," Obiora shouted, standing now. "Lies from a desperate man trying to cover his own crimes." "Is it?" Chidi held up his phone. "Then explain this recording from yesterday, where you confessed to killing Chukwudi, where you admitted to framing Chukwudi's son, Emeka, for theft. Where you said, and I quote, "Your father had an inconvenient sense of honor, so I solved the problem." He pressed play. Obiora's voice filled the room, clear and damning. The crowd was silent as they listened to him describe murdering Chikwudi as solving a problem. When the recording ended, Obiora's face had gone purple with rage. "That recording is inadmissible. It was obtained without my consent. My lawyers will have a hard time explaining this," Commissioner Namdi said, stepping onto the stage. Yesterday, Obiora Okafor or someone working for him attempted to murder 2 university students. One was Chidi Okafor's daughter, Adiz. The other was a boy who happened to be on the same football team as Chidi's son. We have evidence linking the poison used to industrial chemicals that Obiora's hotel company purchases in bulk. Circumstantial, Obiora shouted. "You have nothing." "We also have testimony from your former driver," the commissioner continued calmly. "He's willing to testify that he drove you to Enugu 25 years ago, that he waited outside while you met with Chikwudi Okafor, and that you came out carrying something you later identified as a problem solved. He's been carrying that guilt for 2 decades. He's ready to talk." Obiora's security team began backing toward the exits, but plainclothes officers blocked their path. The net was closing. "You betrayed me, Chidi," Obiora snarled, all pretense of civility gone. "After everything I did for you, I made you. Without me, you would still be rotting in Ajagunal. You murdered my brother." Chidi shouted back, his composure finally breaking. "You took everything from his son. You poisoned my daughter. What kind of family does that?" "The kind that survives," Obiora roared. "The kind that doesn't let weakness and sentimentality destroy everything. Your brother was going to ruin us all. I did what needed to be done." The entire confession was being broadcast live on every news channel. Obiora's lawyers would spend years trying to undo the damage, but it was too late. The court of public opinion had already rendered its verdict. Commissioner Namdi's officers moved in. "Obiora Okafor, you are under arrest for the murder of Chikwudi Okafor, attempted murder of Adiz Okafor and David Okonkwo, fraud, conspiracy, and intimidation of witnesses." This time, there was no judge to buy off, no technicality to exploit. The evidence was overwhelming and public. As the officers handcuffed him, Obiora looked at Chidi one last time. "You'll never escape what you did," he said quietly. "You're just as guilty as me." "You're right," Chidi said. "I am guilty. And after this, I'm turning myself in to face charges for my part in the land theft. But the difference between us, Obiora, is that I'm finally choosing to face the consequences. You never did." As Obiora was led away, Emeka stepped forward to the microphone. "My name is Emeka Nwachukwu.
Chikwudi Okafor was my father.
For 3 years, I worked as a housekeeper in the Okafor home, searching for answers about what happened to him. Today, I finally have those answers. And while nothing can bring my father back, knowing the truth, seeing justice begin to be served, that's something." He turned to Chidi. "My uncle stole from my father. He was a coward who ran away instead of facing his mistakes. But in these last few days, I've seen him become something different. Someone willing to lose everything to do what's right. That doesn't erase the past, but it's a start." Chidi's eyes filled with tears. "I can't give you back the years you lost, Emeka. I can't bring your father back or undo the poverty you and your mother suffered. But I can give you what should have been yours all along. Half of everything I own, the business, the property, the investments, it's yours. It always should have been." "I don't want your money," Emeka said quietly. "I want something more important. I want family." The 2 men embraced on stage, and the cameras captured it all. Uncle and nephew, torn apart by greed and brought together by truth. Amara stepped forward. "My husband will face legal consequences for his actions. So will I, for knowing about some of this and staying silent too long. But our children, Adiz and Ikenna, they're innocent. They deserve a chance to rebuild the Okafor name into something honorable, something their grandfather Chikwudi would have been proud of." In her hospital room, Adiz watched through tears. Beside her bed, her phone buzzed with messages from friends, from strangers, from people all over Nigeria who were following the story. Many were critical, angry about the crimes that had been committed, but others were supportive, impressed by the family's courage to tell the truth. One message stood out. It was from Kemi, her best friend. "Your family is brave. Real change starts with the truth, no matter how painful. You should be proud." The press conference ended an hour later, after dozens of questions from reporters. As the family left the stage, Commissioner Namdi pulled them aside. "The prosecutor will likely offer Chidi a deal," he said. "Community service, restitution, probation. Given his cooperation and the fact that the primary crime was committed decades ago when he was young, prison time is unlikely. But your reputation will take a hit." "I can live with that," Chidi said. "I've been living with worse for 20 years. 3 months later, the Lagos High Court found Obiora Okafor guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison without the possibility of parole. His hotels were seized, his assets frozen. The shell companies he used for money laundering were exposed, leading to arrests of several corrupt officials. Chidi pleaded guilty to fraud and theft. He was sentenced to 5 years probation, 2,000 hours of community service, and ordered to pay restitution to Emeka and to establish a foundation in Chukwudi's name to help young entrepreneurs from their village. The Okafor business empire took a hit, losing several major contracts as partners distanced themselves. But Chidi and Emeka, working together, slowly began rebuilding it into something more ethical, more transparent. Amara filed for divorce, but she and Chidi remained close friends and co-parents. "I love who you're becoming," she told him, "but I need time to heal from who you were." Adiz recovered fully and changed her major from economics to law. "Someone needs to fight for people like Emeka's parents," she said. "People who can't afford justice." Ikenna wrote an essay about his family story that went viral. He was invited to speak at schools across Nigeria about the importance of honesty and facing consequences. And Emeka? He enrolled in business school, working alongside Chidi to learn everything about the company that should have been half his father's. At night, he would visit his father's grave in Enugu and tell him everything that had happened. "You were right to stand for honor," he would say to the headstone. "It took 25 years, but the truth came out. You didn't die for nothing, Papa. I promise you that." On the anniversary of that fateful press conference, the entire family, Chidi, Amara, Adiz, Ikenna, Emeka, and Commissioner Namdi, gathered for dinner. It was awkward at times, painful at others. The wounds were still healing. Trust was being rebuilt slowly, piece by piece. But they were together, and they were trying. As dessert was being served, Ikenna raised his glass. "I want to propose a toast," he said. "To Grandfather Chukwudi, who we never got to meet, but whose honor saved this family. And to second chances. May we use ours wisely." "To second chances," they all echoed. Outside, Lagos hummed with its usual chaos. Traffic, noise, millions of people trying to survive and thrive. Somewhere in that city, other families were keeping other secrets. Other crimes were being committed, other injustices being perpetrated. But in one mansion in Banana Island, a family that had been broken was learning how to be whole again. Not perfect, not without scars, but honest finally about who they were and where they came from. And sometimes that's all redemption really is. The courage to stop running from the truth and start walking toward something better. The truth no one expected wasn't that a billionaire found his wife with a housekeeper in a compromising position. The truth was that the housekeeper was family, that the fortune was built on blood, that courage sometimes comes too late, but still matters, that healing is possible even from the deepest wounds. That's the truth they found, and it set them free. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the secrets we keep and the prices we pay for them, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment telling me what you would have done in Chidi's position. Would you have confessed? Would you have run? Would you have fought? And remember to subscribe to this channel for more stories that challenge us to think about justice, family, and the complicated nature of redemption. Because everyone's story deserves to be told, and every truth deserves to see the light. Thank you for watching from wherever you are in the world. Until next time, stay honest, stay brave, and remember, the truth may hurt, but lies hurt worse.